Welcome to How Now, the podcast where we talk about how to live in the now. And here's your host, Kim Martin Raymond.
Peace and blessings, and welcome to another edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. I am your host, Kim Martin Raymond. I am a minister, spiritual life coach, author, and founder of Redefining You LLC, where I help my clients to realign themselves, mind, body, and spirit. And welcome back to another episode. And today we're going to be talking about relationships. And that's something that's so key and so critical in our lives. But more specifically, we're going to be talking about the Institute of Marriage. We're going to be talking about some of the things that we need to make sure we're doing prior to tying the knot, prior to saying I do. And I know a little bit about this topic. And I giggle because, I've been there a couple of times. And so it's important information. There's things that we need to be cognizant of when we're talking about getting into relationships and we're talking about spending our life with others. And we know that it's been a challenge, especially in this time of COVID. We've seen divorce rates skyrocket because relationships were not quite what they appeared to be because the busyness of life kind of took over. And so to talk a little bit more about this is my special guest who is here today. And of course, as is customary with the How Now podcast, I'm going to have her to introduce herself at this time.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm looking forward to talking about it. We're talking about relationships tonight.
Yes.
And that is an exciting topic. It's always exciting to talk about that. So my name is Gloria Adegold Lawrence, also known as Jade on my podcast. I have a podcast. It's called The Unfiltered by Jade. And I am also an author of my new book, which is Things Left Unsaid Before I Do, Diary of Gloria Adegold. So here we are.
Yes. Well, I am so glad that you're here, a fellow podcast host.
Yes.
And I'm excited about that. And it's always good to have a company in that do similar things to what you do. So it's nice that you're an author. I'm a published author as well.
Yes,
and,
you are.
Podcast host. So I'm excited to have you here. And like you said, this is such a timely topic because relationships, have been strained.
Yes.
Due to, COVID, a lot of people have not been there on the dating scene for a while. There was everybody had to take a break for a while. People were indoors for a while. It looked a little different. We saw people going online and all kinds of things. But before we dive into talking about relationships, let's talk about what your premise was behind writing this book.
I don't even know where to start. So
the beginning.
So when I got married young. When I got married, I did not, I had expectations of how I want my marriage to go, basically. Okay. So, I know we were both two human beings and we're different, but I still had an expectation that's okay, because we're married now, or because we're going to get married, we're going to be doing things differently. Wow. And I thought that was everybody's thought on it. But apparently it was not so. And because I did counseling for a year straight before I got married.
Wow.
I thought that I was fully prepared and ready for marriage, but that was not the case. So it wasn't even a year into the marriage that I was at work one day and I decided there are some things that came up on the surface now of the marriage, because now you're living with the person.
That's right.
And I decided to just write down the topics of what I see happening. And then later on, I just started writing my thoughts. So it started as journaling first. And then it came out as the book.
Okay. Now that makes sense, because now you had a point of reference.
Yes.
So like you said, things just weren't quite going the way,
Nope.
And you saw it kind of quickly.
Nope. I saw it immediately.
Oh, wow.
Because
Now, my question is: were you living? You were not living with him prior to your marriage?
no, I
Oh,
wasn't.
yes.
I wasn't. So jumping in and getting in the marriage, I think I got married in June. And then by the August, I was already packing up my stuff to leave.
Woo.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's a quick turnaround.
Yes, it is. I think I take notice of things quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see it happening and I don't know, that's not how it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
And because also I realized there was unexpected expectations from the person.
Right.
So also going into something with my idea of what marriage should be, and then he's coming into something with his idea, there were clashes.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, did any of those things come up while you were in counseling? You say you were in counseling for a year. Did any of those things come up then?
I mean, that came up, but all right. So I'm on the fence now. So I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. I have a problem now with going to Christian counselors for premarital counseling. That's just where I am.
Okay.
I think they didn't go into too much detail that probably should have been gone into. I mean, they saw some stuff and they asked him, "Are you willing to work on it?" He said, "Yes." Okay, good. So that was it.
Right.
What is it that you're expecting from her? What is it that she's expecting from you? We listed them out, but nobody went into full detail. I mean, we discussed it. Oh, you expect her to help you clean or, stuff like that. But nobody went into full detail to find out, hey, how are you feeling about these things?
Yeah.
So, and I had a problem with that because not going into that kind of detail allows people to continue to go into a marriage that they probably should not have been in.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and that makes sense because we are told, so I'm a Christian as well. So, you're told to go into counseling or just like you said, you hope that in that counseling, those things that can be potential red flags, you assume.
Oh, there were red flags. They were not carnivals. They were red flags. They were coming there. They were coming there, but we were told that, the person will change them. He will change, or you need to change, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's a fact because you just think, I know this person well enough. Yeah, we'll be able to work through it. Or you automatically think, they're going to see it my way once we get into this.
Precisely.
It's going to happen. They're going to change. And I think that's the biggest part. We just make that assumption that person is going to change.
Yes.
But we never say, I'm willing to change or be flexible. We always just assume that the other person is going to do it. So we're like, okay, I'm good because they're going to make
and that's something that causes a lot of friction because what I'm learning now is that we can't change people.
That's right.
We can't change people. And I think also me trying to change him caused a lot of problems.
Yes.
Because I'm trying to change him and he's trying to change me. And because we're trying to change each other to be who we want each other to be, we have started drifting apart.
That's it.
Yeah.
And just like you said, you saw that relatively quickly.
Yes, I did.
In your relationship. So after that couple of months, did you separate then or did you stay?
I think I left the marriage about 4 times before I decided to finally go. And it's not that I decided to finally go. There were some issues with some woman. And I said to him, you need to leave. And he says, he's not leaving because, he's married to me and he's not married to those other people. So he's not leaving. And I went somewhere. And when I came back, couldn't enter my house. So that's actually what happened. But before that, I'd normally pick up and go away for a couple months and come back.
Oh, wow.
Go away for a couple weeks and come back. I had gone for some time and come back and he came back for me. He said, no, you have to come home because you're my wife. And I mean, it just kept on going like that. But I realized that when it is that we keep on playing, leaving and coming back, afterwards it's taken for granted. So they're like, no, she ain't leaving.
Right. Right. It's amazing how that happens. Yeah, because what happens is it gives that false message.
Yes.
It gives
Yes,
that
it
false
does.
message that,
It
okay,
does.
you said you were leaving, but
You
keep
you
coming
came back.
So there must be something that's bringing you back.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like I said, we're not going to give away your entire book. We definitely don't want to do
Well,
that.
actually, I didn't have that
But-
in the book though.
Oh, good. Okay, then even better, because I mean, these are still nuggets. These are still things that are necessary to kind of set the stage for what we're talking about this evening.
Right.
And I think that, you know, in pausing for a moment on what you experienced personally, I think about the relationships and what people began to see when this pandemic hit. Because people were having to be at home together in each other's space for longer periods of time than usual, because, you know, we all get caught up in being busy. You know, you're going one direction, your spouse is going the other direction, or your significant other is going the opposite direction. And so when you think about the time that you spend together, it wasn't as much as when you're in the same house for 24 hours for days and weeks on end. Then you begin to say, now, wait a minute.
What's happening here?
This, because I think there are so many things that we ignore when we're jumping off in one direction and we're going here, or, you know, it's just like, okay, well, we don't have time to talk about that. Okay, we'll talk about it later. And then off they go to work, or off they go to drop the kids off to school, or whatever you're doing. And then the next thing you know, it's like, wait a minute, how did I miss this? How did I not see these things that now all of a sudden I'm seeing in this person? And then, of course, like you said, we began to see a lot of relationships breaking down and breaking up, because collectively, when you put the time together with that person, you realize that person is not the person who you thought
not the person who you thought they were, right?
At all. And now you can't pick up and go because you're under quarantine.
You'd want to. You really want to.
You want to go and step into the closet and lock it.
You'd want to, but you can't.
Yeah. I mean, about as far as some people could go was to the car. That was
come right back in.
That's it. That's it. And so, you know,
I mean, thinking about the lockdown, so I got married like a week before the lockdown. I got remarried like a week before the lockdown.
Wow.
So at that time, everything was new now, because I'm not remarried, and we're now staying at home every minute. Everybody's working from home now.
Right.
And it's a situation now where, okay, so this is not like what I'm used to before, because in my first marriage, I was going to work, he was going to work, come home with whatever it is. No, every day we're in each other's face. It was annoying. It was frustrating, and it was annoying.
Right.
I couldn't wrap my head around it, because I also like my space. So I would say to him, listen, I think I'm going to need some space, because I thought I was going to go crazy. I needed to have some space for myself to do something as in Gloria's time.
Yes.
Because if I did not, there would be a lot of friction. So I had realized that from early.
Yeah.
So we had that discussion before, and we started to, okay, I get my space and I do what I do, and then I come back. But also I've realized that I've gotten to know who he is more. I think I would have known that better now than if it is that he was going to work, or we were going to work every day and coming back home. So even looking at other couples or seeing other relationships happening now, people are also not used to being in the space with their partners for 24/7. And then now you're seeing things about your partner that you absolutely don't like.
That's right.
It's true. And I've heard people say, listen, if it is, I knew this. If I knew this part about you, we would not be here right now today.
That's right.
Honestly.
That's right.
And I've seen that, okay, persons now realize they don't like spending time with this person. They can't have conversations. They can't have fun. They can't talk about certain things that's happening. Now it is that we're realizing, oh, this person suffers from anxiety. We probably didn't know. We didn't know that this person is ADD. We did not know. So there are certain things now to pick up. And then we're saying, No, but can I live with somebody that has anxiety? People are now falling into depression. Couples don't know how to deal with each other while they're falling into depression. So many things are happening. Who is complaining about which party is spending more money and go in shopping for everything because COVID came and everybody has to buy everything.
Amazon.
So
the end. Yes. Yes.
So there's I mean, sometimes I would have woken up to see my husband on the phone at Walmart looking for what now to shop and buy because everybody was buying this year. Everybody was buying.
Everybody was buying everything.
Everything.
Right. You're right.
Right. So there are so many things now. People want to find activities to do at home. They realize they can't play anything because their spouse don't like playing games. They never knew that before.
Right.
You understand? So small different things that couples had to face during this pandemic. This is what has led them now to, hey, they're gonna get a divorce. It's true.
Yeah. Well, you make a very valid point though, because people, when you're confined in the space, then you begin to crave having your own space or setting up your own area, because now you're like, okay, I need to, I think about my own marriage. My husband worked remotely a certain number of days per week because he worked in IT, and I worked in my office, and I also traveled for work. So all of the travel ended. Then it was just a matter of me being home. Then I had to make sure that I had a space set up. Now, fortunately, I have an office in my house.
Okay.
And so that meant that my husband needed to find somewhere for his stuff. Because I was like, it's my office. And I got all my stuff in here. So I'm set up. Where you setting up at? So, he was like, oh, yeah. So he either had to go to the kitchen or he had to go in our bedroom, but it was like, wherever you go, just figure out. But he needed to have a door to close because if he had to speak to customers, my granddaughter and my daughter are here.
Right.
And so, my granddaughter didn't need to be running around making a whole bunch of noise. So, those are just factors that are in there too, because like I say, a lot of couples who have children. And so now everybody is jockeying for space. Everybody's trying to figure out, okay, where's my little space? Where can I close the door and it's just me and where I'm not interrupted? So you get a lot of that. People are trying to figure out, where's my space? Where's my zone? Where do I go? And if people feel like their space is threatened, then they're like, okay, well, I don't have any place to go, but you do. Now the animosity starts. Now the anger starts. Well, you have a spot and I don't have anywhere to go, and you have a whole office, and now and everybody's high traffic area. What am I supposed to do? And so it definitely becomes problematic because people are first seeking their space. But as you mentioned too, it's a space issue, and then it's a getting to know that person. You knew certain aspects of that person. But when you think about it, a lot of those things happened, and I'm sure you'll agree, outside of the house.
Yes.
You went to events where you had to dress up, or you had to go and engage in different activities. So you were fine there. You didn't have to, you were almost as though you were putting on airs.
Yes.
And
the funny thing is what happens is, the time that we take normally to get to know our spouse over the years, we knew a lot in just the 1 year or the 2 years.
Yeah.
So it minimized very much. So instead of saying, in 5 years I learned this about my husband, we're learning about it in a couple months now.
Right.
And it is bringing problems because maybe 5 years we probably could have dealt with it. But in three months we're dealing with this. No.
Right.
Yeah, so things just came unexpectedly.
And so I think, like you're saying, a lot of it had to do with like you said, that communication and not really knowing the person as well as you thought you knew them.
Yes.
And so what kind of conversations do you think, need to transpire during that time? I know your book talks about the before, or what they should be doing prior to. So let's talk about that a little first, and then we'll talk about how, what's going on once they're already in the marriage.
Okay, so like before marriage, there are a couple of things, but I'm gonna just talk about few of them. So one of them that I spoke about is loving yourself. You have to love yourself before you get married. And I don't believe in someone completing you. I believe that you're completed. Someone adds to you, they add something to you, and together they complement each other. That's what I believe. So before I also went in a marriage hoping that the person would love me and me not loving myself. And because of that, it caused problem also, because when I needed him to love me, he was not loving me at the point. Right. And because I did not know myself enough to love myself for who I am, and I didn't figure out who I was as yet, I was depending on somebody to do that for me. And that played a huge part in the fussing that we were having, because we also realized he also was trying to find himself. He was older than I was, but he was also still trying to find out who he was. So both of us could help each other in that situation. I also spoke about don't lose yourself, because things I normally do before marriage, I had stopped doing it. Because he wanted me to spend more time with him and to do a lot of stuff. So things that made me happy, I no longer did it, while he was still doing things that was making him happy. And I was not supporting those ventures. But I thought that as a wife, you're supposed to do everything to make your partner happy. I realized that it goes both ways.
Yes.
He needs to make me happy, and I need to make him happy. A relationship cannot work with just one person being happy. It's almost parasitic.
Yes.
One person feeding off the other. And I spoke about forgiveness. So there are things that we have gone into marriage with, and I call them baggages. So they're baggages. And we need to deal with them and forgive ourselves before we enter into a marriage. Because what we do, we take those things in that marriage. And because sometimes we don't even forgive ourselves for things that we have done before, it causes problems now in the marriage, because we also feel now like that person also sees us that particular way. It's because really of how we see ourselves. So we need to do introspection to ensure that, hey, we have dealt with this and we're okay. So we don't need to think that, hey, that person is looking at me that particular way because they know about this, and they probably won't forgive me because I don't even forgive myself. And I've learned to forgive. I need to learn. I'm still trying to, but learning how to forgive a partner is so important for things that they have done, because you keep having it up and then it blows up after a while, because all unforgiveness really does is lead to resentment.
That's it.
And you will have some arguments that you're wondering where these arguments are coming from. And it's really based on things that you have not forgiven a partner of. And because of that, it can put a strain on a marriage where now you don't want to be yourself with the person at all, because they have said something that has hurt you or done something to hurt you, and they probably don't even know. So having the conversation and learning to forgive when they're apologetic about it, you learn to forgive, and not just forgive, but to move past it.
Yes. We know how to file stuff. We definitely do. we know how to file. We go, everything is okay until the argument starts, and all of a sudden we go right to the file cabinet.
We go right and we pull it out. Let me see what I can pull out from this.
Right. Let me go back and see what I can throw at you. That you did that I said I forgave you for, but I didn't. But you make some very, very valid points. The first one that you said, of course, was to love yourself. And that is so critical because, as you said, if we are not in a space where we can, be able to tell someone how to love us, so if we don't know how to love ourselves, how can we articulate to somebody else how to love us?
Yes, true.
And then we assume that they're just supposed to know. But if you can't articulate it yourself, if you can't articulate your feelings, why you're angry, why you're happy, why you're sad, how can you possibly expect that other person to take on that role or that responsibility for being able to soothe you? Sometimes you have to tell people how to do things. As a child, we learned to self-soothe.
Mhm.
When we're upset, we learn how to self-soothe ourselves. It's the same thing as we get a
Yes.
little older. What are some things that I can do to help self-regulate?
Yes.
And that's a huge thing.
Yes,
People
it
don't
is.
know how to self-regulate. So if we don't know how to self-regulate, we just gonna know it's your turn. You just, be a circus clown and make me happy.
Mhm. Right. That
How
can't happen.
can that be right? How can that be the expectation? So I
Yeah.
love that you say that. It is about loving ourselves, because when we love ourselves, we can articulate to someone how to love us.
Yes.
And that even goes on a sexual level.
Oh, I spoke about that.
How do you please me? If I don't tell you, touch me here, or I like when you do that.
We don't even know what makes us, we don't even know what arouses us. We don't even know what we like. So if we don't know what we like, how are we going to expect somebody else to know?
Right. That's right. So in loving ourselves, we're loving every aspect of ourselves and
Yes.
knowing what arouses us. Like you said, what gives us joy, what gives
Yes.
us pleasure.
Yes.
So that way we can articulate to that person.
Yes.
I don't want somebody scratching my back if it doesn't itch, and you just scratching my back, and I'm like, okay, that's annoying. I'd rather you rub my stomach, but
Yes.
if I don't articulate that and I just let you do it because you just think that's what's given, after a while I'm just going to be like, get off me. That doesn't feel good.
And then afterwards you're just not going to want them to touch us.
Right.
Because,
and then they're going to think that you're not interested, that you're not attracted to them.
Yes.
That's not the case at
Yes.
all.
Yes.
So I definitely, that whole loving yourself and being able to articulate what makes you feel good is definitely going to be vital in those beginning stages of your relationship, because you're setting the boundaries. You're setting up how you want to be engaged.
Yes.
So I think that's huge. And then, like you said, don't give up the things that you love. If there are things that you're doing that you enjoy, just say, hey, there are going to be some days where I'm going to go and hang out with my girlfriends.
That's right.
Some days where, I'm just going to go and do things. Now, no, you're not going, to places where, we're not going to
supposed to go.
We're not going to, go and be out there gyrating and wearing all these clothes. Those days are over, because we've caught the person that we caught the eye of the person that we're interested in. And so we don't want to do anything that's going to make that person feel threatened.
Right.
So that makes sense. But if there are things that we like to do, like I said, I love to meditate. I like to go on retreats every now and then. My husband doesn't have to go. There are some couples retreats that we go on, and there are some retreats that I go on by myself.
Yes.
Because there's something of my interest, but he knows and trusts that I'm going there and that I'm having a good time, and that it's something that's going to energize me. And when I come back, I'm going to come back a better person for it.
Yes.
So those kinds of things are things that are important. If you say, well, I'm going to go drinking with my girls. You kind of,
yeah.
Those, like you said, are those conversations that you have ahead of time. That way, are you going to have an issue with me going out with my girlfriend?
Yes.
And of course, if it's your single girlfriend, then they're going out with the skin tight clothes on, and they're showing more skin than they need to show.
Yep.
Yeah, they're going to assume that
you're a part of that.
You're a part of that.
You're a part of that too.
So it's like, no, I have a little issue with that. But there are other things that you may be interested in, and just like you don't give up everything, because then you have animosity towards that person.
Yes.
To go to the game and hang out and with the boys and everything else like that, and I got to just be sitting here and I got clinking pots and pans till you get back. Nah.
Not cool.
Doesn't work. And then, of course, like you said, forgiving yourself,
man,
so critical, because like you said, if you forgive yourself, or if you sometimes we're hardest on ourselves.
Yes, we are.
We're hard on ourselves, and we're not willing to forgive ourselves. We want somebody to forgive us at a moment's notice.
Yes, cannot work that way.
It cannot work. So I love that you bring those 3 points up, because it is important to love ourselves. It's important not to lose ourselves.
Yes.
Especially if we have children, because we tend to become our roles.
Yes.
We fall into those
Yes.
roles, and then when our
Oh,
children empty nest
yes.
and they leave,
Then we
and
don't
if
know
we
what to do
haven't,
with each other.
we don't know what to do with each other, and we don't know what to do with ourselves
That's
because we
right.
were so busy being
Mhm.
mom and wife and
Right.
worker bee that we
Right.
never stopped to to say, okay, so what do I like now?
What
And
do I
so
like?
when those things end, where am I left?
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to lose yourself. So I agree. It's a place where you're establishing and identifying who you are.
Mhm.
So I think that's critical. I think
Yes, it is.
that's critical in the whole process. So, like you said, we've got some things that we're looking at when we see the red flags flying. You know, what are some things that we need to do before we but before we just go ahead and wrap ourselves up in that flag? Because that's what happens. It's like, what do we do? What do we do?
I mean, have the conversations, because I mean, some of these are some of the things to be done before. But after you get married, now there are some things that you're not going to expect that's going to happen, because marriage is just not smooth sailing.
Yeah.
There are issues that's going to come up, and you're going to have to decide, how do we maneuver this issue?
Yeah.
And it's important to always talk about it, talk about the things that bother us, the things that hurt. So even in this pandemic now, when we're in each other's space 24/7,
Right.
it's important to just say to your spouse, you know what, can I have 5 minutes? Or I'm gonna take 5 minutes to my time and have a have a Gloria time.
Yes.
10 minutes, and have that communication, instead of saying, you know, why are you always around me?
Right.
Right. So even how things are said. So the no, I don't know. Because so I'm trying to think about, even in my situation in this pandemic, flight or stay and fight.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And sometimes we don't know if this is enough for us to fight it, so we want to flight.
Right.
Because there are just some things that just come at us, and we don't know how to deal with it. And as I said, we want to leave, and we're stuck in a pandemic. So we don't know where to turn.
Right.
But I just believe communicating through these things. So if you're at home and you realize, hey, there's some things you don't like about your wife, or you don't like about your husband, and you see the red flag and they're coming at you and they're beating you, have that conversation, because you're already married now.
Right.
You're already married.
Right. You're already there.
You're already there. If it was before, you could have went your opposite ways, but you're already in that commitment. So the best thing to do is, hey, let us talk about this red flag that's here and see how it happens. The problem with that is that some people don't want to change their red flag situation.
Right.
Because some people, say, for example, they are stressed, and when they're stressed, they smoke. The person, or when they're stressed, they drink. The person who they're with probably don't realize how much they drink when they are stressed.
Right.
So now to say to them, no, I don't want you to be drinking so much, they're going to say, this is how I deal with my stress. You know, we're in lockdown, we're at home, all we're seeing is four walls. They are stressed, especially when now they don't know if their jobs is going to let them go, because the place has been closed for so long. So many things are happening. Now, instead of probably saying, no, I need you to stop drinking, and be at them and command them and tell them what to do, maybe help them through the stress and deal with the root problem that is happening, by probably assuring them that things will be okay. Even if you yourself don't know. We have to assure, and we have to try and be there for them. If they need to talk, we need to not just hear, but listen to what people are saying, because there are many times that people talk and they're angry. Instead of looking at the emotion, listen to what they're saying. And sometimes we realize that their anger is not really towards us, but it's towards the situation or how they are feeling at the time. So many persons have gone through divorce with things that they really could have worked on if they had stopped. And say, hey, how are we going to deal with this? What's the root cause? What's the root problem? Can we go through this? Let us sit down and navigate and work our way. But I've realized people don't like working on things.
No,
they don't.
Fast and simple, way to do everything.
I was one of that. So I I couldn't. It was, I mean, I tried about 8 years before. I'm here trying again.
Yeah.
But I realized that we have to really try and work on it and talk about it in the know, because this pandemic probably is not going anywhere.
No.
So
no. And that's a point. But the thing that I hear resonating and what you're talking about is that we have to have those hard conversations.
Yes.
Because of course, when you're trying to attract that person and you're trying to advance the relationship, you don't want to talk about the negative. You don't want to talk about your downfalls, or you don't want to talk about the issues that you have, because you don't want that person to leave you prior to, the commitment that you want to have with them. So you're like, I don't want to talk about that, because then if we get angry, they're going to leave me. So I'm going to just keep everything, even keel, so that way they don't leave me. People are so afraid of being alone that they'd rather sacrifice,
their happiness,
having that hard conversation just for the sake of saying that I'm with this person, or they don't want to have to, that I've invested years into this person, and now I'm looking to go to that next level, and I don't want to jeopardize that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have that hard conversation, because if I have that sticky conversation with them, then they're going to feel like, they might just leave me. So let me just, roll back and just kind of tolerate things until, we get married, and then they won't be able to leave me. Like they're trying to bait a fish.
I've experienced that. I've experienced that before. That's what happened in my first marriage. There's some things that happened, and he did them so that I won't leave him.
Yes.
And he did say it, I'm doing these things so you don't leave me, because if it is that
insecurity
about certain things, you're going to leave. Yeah.
And then now I have a question also, because when you said you left, or you would leave for a couple of weeks, what did that time look like for you? Were you angry during that time? Were you trying to think, okay, what, strategizing, okay, what do I need to do when I go back? Or, if I go back, what were your thoughts while you were gone?
So my thought was, first of all, I was wondering, is this what, because my parents they were separated after 20 something years.
Wow.
And in my head now, am I gonna follow what my parents are doing? I don't know. And then because my parents are ministers, how is this gonna look? So there were those thoughts. And then at a point I started now thinking about myself, because my parents made their own choice, and I decided, listen, I need to make my own choice.
Right.
So at a point in my head, I was like, if I go back, it's gonna be the same thing. But I also did not want to start over. I didn't want to start over, because that means now I have to get to know somebody again. I'm gonna have to invest in someone again. I'm gonna have to start doing all these things over again. But that's what it was.
Wow.
And when I had left for a couple weeks, he had sent me a message that he's leaving. And he just letting me know, but can he stay for some time, because he's trying to sort out the place? And I was like, okay, sure, because he knows the kind of person I am.
Right.
I'm not gonna let you go on no road and sleep at all.
Right.
So I was like, sure, you can stay. And then, when you find somewhere you can leave. He never left, because he wasn't planning to leave at all. He just wanted me to come back to the house.
Right.
Which I did. And I think the last time when it had happened, he said to me, you won't leave me because you love me too much to leave me.
Wow.
Yes. And at that time, I already had made up in my mind from a couple months before that I'm leaving.
Right.
And I had reached a place where it's either I kill myself in this,
wow,
or I leave.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And it just happened like in no time. It just happened, and I was out of the place.
Yeah.
Yes. And it happened so quickly, because when it did, police got involved.
Wow.
And I remember calling one of my friends, and he said, You need to move, take out your things immediately, move. So it wasn't even that I sat down and said, I'm going to leave so-and-so date.
Right.
But things just happened so fast.
Yes.
And I had made up in my mind, I'm not going back. At that time, the other times before, I was angry. At that time, I was not angry with him at all. I don't know why, but I wasn't angry with him at all. I left him with almost everything because he wanted to have fights with it. And, you know, because he was saying to us, why is it that you're not angry about this? You should be angry about what is happening, because before he was used to me being angry about it.
Right.
So now there was a difference in how things was being done. So he was now wondering what is happening.
Right.
So when it is that, I said, no, I am not angry at you, because we had conversations after.
Yeah.
And he apologized for what he had done.
Yes.
And he wanted me to come home though. But I was like, no, it's just where it is now. It's done.
Right.
That's where it is. But his last words also to me was, you know, he really appreciated how I treated him during the divorce and the separation.
Yes.
Because at that time he realized I was no longer angry at him.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's a huge thing. And I think that's part of the forgiveness aspect of it that you were talking about.
Oh, yes.
You know, you have to forgive, because what happens is that there always seems to be someone at some point that just is like, you know what, all of these things and fighting over things, it's not worth it. These are just material things. I can reestablish those things. I'd rather just relinquish them than to sit here and fight over them. And there's that person who just goes, just take it, because it's just not worth it.
It's not worth it. And I think for me, I ended up going to the hospital because I now started having high blood pressure.
Oh, yeah.
And I started getting sick and I was falling into depression, and I was like, it's not worth it.
Right.
It's really, really not worth it.
Yeah.
So I had to, at that time, say, you know what, I spoke to God about it, and I was like, you know what, that's it. I remember he had sent me a message like a Christmas day, and he was complaining about me leaving him and how I must leave him like that and whatever. And I just said, listen, I forgive you. We're moving on.
That's it.
I mean, you said I left you. That's fine. But at this point, you know what's happening in the marriage. It's not something that we both could continue living in. And I mean, he said he loves me, and I believe it. He did. It's just not in the way that I desire to be loved.
Yeah.
It was more toxic and abusive, and it's because of what he's used to.
Right.
So if he also has not dealt with his issues and he's coming in, he's not going to treat me properly because he doesn't know how to.
Right.
And he didn't have that male figure either to show him how to.
Yeah.
So I was expecting him to treat me particularly with that he was not used to.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And I mean, it's, you know, relationships are, you know, there are so many variables. There are so many things. There's so many things that make your relationship what it is. And when we don't stop to evaluate, and we're so worried about, like you said, staying in it, just saying, well, you know, it's going to get better, or, you know, I don't want to start over again. You made a very valid point there. A lot of people just simply stay in a relationship because of the comfort level. And even though it's toxic, even though it's harmful, it's stressful, we just don't want to, you know, we become lazy. I don't want to have to start all over again. But to me, why establish something over so many years and then you finally get to your breaking point and it ends anyway? You would think, wouldn't you want to end it sooner than later anyway? But our mind doesn't think that way.
No.
You think, oh, you know, no, I don't want to have to start all over again. I'd rather start all over again after a couple of months than after 20, 30 years.
That's a long time, man.
It's a long time. And we're seeing a lot of relationships ending after 25 years, 30 years.
Why? Tell me why.
What in the world's happening? Because it should have ended like 30 hours after it started. You know, 30 months after it started, it needed to end, and we don't.
Some of them keep it going because of kids.
Yes.
And I always say to people, listen, don't let kids keep you in a marriage as it's toxic either, because they're not going to be seeing something that's good.
That's right. That's
and
right.
it's going to affect them later on more than you actually really think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's interesting also that you said, you talk about parents, and you talk about the expectation there, oh, I don't want to disappoint my parents, or, oh, I don't want my relationship to be like my parents, and it's interesting because we are individuals, and that person that we're married to, or that we're courting is different as well. They're not like our parents. And so, I can honestly say I have been married 4 times.
I don't know how you did it.
But my parents have been together for 54 years.
54 years.
54 years. So I had the perfect example, the quintessential example. My parents are still living, still very much in love. My dad calls my mom his girl.
That's
and,
right.
And they love each other. So I had every opportunity to see how it's done right. And still, here I am, 4 marriages later. And I mean, I'm married to my husband now. We've been together for a long time. We've been married 2 years. We've been together 12 years, and I love him dearly.
Yes.
But there were things that you learn, and a part of that is forgiveness. A part of that is that you are not your parents. You are not, those people who have these high expectations of what your relationship should be. It should be you and that person. Yes. That are talking about what that relationship should be, and having, like you said, those hard conversations ahead of time. I want to know if we think about this, how are we going to resolve this if this happens? Mm-hmm. How are we, what are we going to do? How are we going to decide? Is there somebody who's going to be a mediator? Are we going to have somebody come in? Are we going to have somebody from the church come in?
Right. What are we going to do
when we get to that point, to that boiling point, or if we get to this situation? Let's talk about what our options are before we get into this, because if we get into this and it happens, now
then what's going to happen? And the funny thing is, I just spoke about the parents a while ago. After I got separated, my mom said that was the first time she's ever saying it, when she said I did something that she could have never done. Yeah. And I was like, well, I had to make my own decision because she felt like she was obligated to stay in. So my parents are Nigerians. I'm Nigerian. So for them, you don't just get up and leave.
It's cultural, all kinds of things.
For me, I've decided, for peace of mind, I'm getting up and leave. And that's when I also realized that there's nothing that I'm going to stay in that I'm unhappy with.
There you go.
Peace of mind is important.
Self-love.
It's tough love, but peace of mind is important. And I've said to people, listen, if you're going to stay in something just because you love the person, I particularly don't think love is enough. Did I love my ex-husband? I did. But was it enough for me? It wasn't, because it was also toxic. So if I'm going to choose whether I want to die or leave this marriage, it means something is wrong. Right.
And you have people who will do that. They will say, I'd rather end my life than to leave this relationship, or the stigma of what people are going to think or what people are going to say. And that goes back, like you said, to that self-love. It goes back to saying, okay, I love me enough to not want to cause the additional harm or stress to me. I want to be here for my family and my friends. I don't want to be laying up in somebody's hospital because I got high blood pressure and I had a stroke.
Oh, don't talk about my situation. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. No, I had to say to myself, hold up. Right. I can't be sitting here with high blood pressure and he's out there enjoying himself. That does not make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense to me.
None at all. Like you said, it all boils down to those conversations, and we have to be willing to have those conversations ahead of time.
Yes.
Because 25 years later and regret and
makes no sense.
Saying, look at all of these things. Okay, the show is called How Now because we're talking about how to live in the now. How do I get to enjoy now? How do I get to enjoy the present when I have all of this behind me, all of this anger, all of this frustration, all of these years that I've invested, and now, when you leave the relationship, it's still the same question. It's the same question. I'm still at this point of regret. I'm still at this point of, I didn't want to leave because, I didn't want to have to put the work in. And now here I am having to put the work in anyway.
Anyway.
So I'm right back where
I
started from, where I didn't want to be, and now I'm here.
Alone and single and bitter.
And older.
And
wrinklier. And knees blown out and everything else. Can't even drop it like it's hot if I wanted to. See? I would have rather have done that back then,
exactly,
where I can still move, than when I'm in a wheelchair and now, you got these people who are looking for nurses and to take care of them because, you have to think about it from that aspect. You have to think about it like, okay, while I'm still young,
yes,
while I can still, move and get around and be active, isn't that when you want to try to make sure that things are, that you can be appealing? I don't want to have to try to figure out how to, suck things in and tuck things in. I don't want that to be my experience. I don't want that to be, no. So to those out there who are younger, while you still have strength in your body and it's not worn out, and you have to make the decision to just say, okay, maybe this is not for me. I love myself enough and things are tight enough for me to go out there and be able to move. I tell you, look, it's a journey. There are a lot of people out there who are looking to be in relationships, and I think a big question is why are you in this? What is it that you're expecting to get out of this relationship?
Some of them don't know. Some of them are in it because they want to become wives. Some of them are in it because they're afraid to be lonely. Some of them are in it because they don't know themselves and they think that somebody else is going to complete them.
That's it.
Some of them are in it because they don't want Valentine's Day and Christmas to come and they're by themselves. So it's, some of them are in it because they go to church and the church will pressure them to be together. Oh, you guys talk a lot. You guys need to be together, man.
Right. And that's it. We are so influenced by the people around us.
Yes.
But once those doors close and it's just you and that person,
they ain't there.
My friends who know me know I'm quick to say, you know what? When I roll over in the morning, all I see is him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't see none of y'all there.
Nobody.
So, having everybody else try to be a part of this relationship, at the end of the day, is you and me. Exactly. And that's another big thing that needs to be discussed prior to some people have too much family involvement and other people involved in their entire relationship.
Too much.
They can't even, they can't have a thought or speak anything against what their family thinks about that person.
Nope.
But you didn't walk down the aisle with everybody. You walked down the aisle with that person. So yeah, it's definitely it's a challenge.
It is
a challenge. And just like you said, now that you're in there with that person and you're spending more time, there's a matter of saying, okay, what do we do now? We need to have a conversation. We need to talk about what happens. Just like in this COVID situation where people were losing loved ones and things like that, you have to start having those hard conversations about death.
Yes.
You had to start having conversations about insurance. What happens if you get ill? What happens if something happens? Now, if you don't like that person gets sick, how inclined are you to help that person out?
Peace.
Okay. So now you're like, not so much. And now you have even more animosity because I didn't really like you. And now I got to take care of you because you're sick.
Not doing it.
It's a whole ball. Your perspective changes when you start to say, okay, I need to be able to, if this person gets ill, if something happens, what are we going to do? What does that look like? You have to start looking at scenarios and saying, okay, what's the deal breaker for me and what's not? If that person eats a lot or drinks a lot and eventually down the line, it may cause problems. That person may get sick or they might get cirrhosis of the liver or they may, they may be obese and get diabetes and things may happen. Am I willing to take care of that person?
Yes.
We say in our vows in sickness and in health.
No, we just say vows. Vows don't mean anything. I don't think people even listen to what the vows are. People don't listen to them. They just say the words. So now when it actually happens, now you're like, wait, I didn't sign up for this. I did not sign up for this.
And it's like, yes, you did. You did so. but that's it. They're empty words, just like when we say love you, and do we mean it?
It doesn't
If
mean
we
anything.
don't, it doesn't mean anything that it should mean, you know. And I think that that's the hardest part. And
Yes.
just saying we have to get to that point of like you said, first and foremost, loving ourselves.
Yes.
Before we can ever talk about loving someone else or engaging in a relationship where we haven't even determined what's best for ourselves. And I think a lot of people are starting to look into self-care and meditation and taking time to get to know themselves.
Yes.
Because that's a hard thing too.
That's a hard thing to
look in that
do.
mirror and say,
that
okay,
introspection thing is not pretty.
yes, it's not beautiful at all. But but if you want to be in a successful relationship, it's necessary.
Yes, I agree.
It's necessary. So, you know, I like I said, we can go on for days. We can go on for days. We'll definitely have you come back too, because there are so many dynamics to relationships, to marriage, to you know, taking those initial steps.
Yes.
Sometimes, like you said, we do it for other people. We don't do it for ourselves.
Yes.
And that's what's key.
Yes.
That is what is key. So, like I said, this is a conversation that will continue to go on. But for now, we're just going to make sure that we're looking into that self-love. We're looking into making sure that we're not giving up on ourselves and the things that we enjoy doing. And that most of all, we are forgiving ourselves.
Yes.
Yes.
That's important.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So before we, you know, check out of here, I always ask my guests, you know, what are some things that they are doing in the now? So what are some things that you're doing now to operate in this space and maybe even in your marriage?
Okay, so I normally say, well, I've heard it before. Last year when the pandemic has started, this thing that says, if it is that you leave the pandemic without learning a new skill, you have wasted the time.
Yes.
Right. And since that pandemic, since this pandemic, because it's still going on, I have done a lot of introspection with myself.
Yes.
In terms of getting to know who I am better. I have spent that time to find out who my friends really are. Who are the persons that I'm just holding on to, who was actually supposed to be a lesson, but I turned them into a friend.
Yes.
Who I figured out what is I like.
Yes.
My likes, my dislikes. I have taken the time to learn about my partner.
Yeah.
Who he is, what he likes, what to do to make him happy, what to do to make myself happy, because I'm also realizing I tend to do a lot of things for people and not for myself.
Yeah.
So I'm taking that time or this time now to do that for myself. So I spend a lot of time doing a lot of introspection. And in the now for myself, I just spend time talking with my family members. I've realized that in the pandemic, people have lost family members left, right, and center.
Yeah.
So I try to spend as much time talking to my family members and my friends, you know, to make sure that I spend that time to talk to them, because people are losing people. So I want to cherish the time that I have with my people who are close to me.
Yes.
I have spent my now time to complete my book after 6 years.
Yes.
Love that. That was a huge thing for me. And I started my podcast like at the beginning of the pandemic. And I realized it's something I love to do. I worked on radio before. I've, been in media. So it's something I realized I was passionate about. So I said, let me go ahead and do it. So, and I have also in the now decided to do different courses to help myself even to deal with this pandemic.
Yes.
So because sometimes we need to get to know some skills and how to operate while we're in this pandemic, that it helps to level us, that we don't get depressed and we don't get sad now, because every time, and we don't become panicky, because every time we go out, we don't know if the person that just needs has COVID and we are running and we don't know what is taking place. So I've also done so. And my husband and I have come together and we're getting our business done together,
Nice.
So there are so many things that we are being honing. We're getting to know the girls better because we have 3 girls.
Okay.
getting to know them better. So I mean, they're just things that we're doing right now. But the most important for me is in the now is getting to know myself.
I love that. And just like you said, personal inventory.
Yes.
It's a personal inventory. And I like that you say, you know, and you're incorporating things with your spouse.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because as you're finding out more about you, you know, you're able to articulate that to him.
Yes.
And then see how he fits in the puzzle. Because sometimes when people take that personal inventory, they realize
this person doesn't fit.
This person doesn't quite fit into the puzzle. You know, the circle doesn't fit in the square, or the square doesn't fit in the circle too good.
Nope.
and we realize some things, and that's why it's important, like you said, to take that personal inventory even before you step out and say I do.
Yes.
Just to see if that person is a fit. Or do we have some commonalities, some things that we can do together? Because of everything that I've, you know, personally inventoried about myself just involves me and doesn't involve that person at all, that person's going to feel like they're shut out.
Yes.
You know, so that's why that's the point. I love that you're doing that. And I love that you're incorporating him in that, and that you're getting to know each other even more, and spending time together, and like you said, loving yourself first and not losing yourself. That is powerful stuff.
Yes, thank you.
So like I said, I hope everybody's been taking some notes, because she's just dropped some wonderful nuggets here for you guys. And while you have that pen in hand, please tell people how they can get in contact with you.
Okay, so you can get in contact with me at the Unfiltered by Jade, and the J is with a G, not a J. So it's the Unfiltered by Jade, and that's on Instagram. Okay. And there's also Gloria Adigold on Instagram if persons want to connect with me.
Okay. And that's Gloria
Adigold, which is Adegold.
Adigold, and that one is on
Instagram also.
On Instagram.
Yes.
Okay. On Instagram. All right. Is there an email or a number they can reach you at?
Well, the email address would be theunfilteredbyjade@gmail.com.
All right. At Gmail. All right. So they have ways in which to get to you. And of course, we'll put that in the description for the show. Yes. And so with that, I say thank you so much for being here with us, Jay. I have enjoyed our time together.
Yes.
And people can also find your book, and it's called Things Left Unsaid Before I Do. And they can find that on Amazon.
Yes, they can.
So make sure that you go on there, grab your copy of the book. Yes. I'm going to be grabbing mine. Now I have her sign mine, because that's just what I do. That's my business. As Tabitha Brown says, that's her business, and because that's my business. Go out there and grab you a copy of the book, and she's got some wonderful information in there, so you can find it. Again, the title is Things Left Unsaid Before I Do. Check it out on Amazon.
Yes.
And thank you again, like I said, so much for being here.
Thank you for having
wisdom.
me.
And we'll absolutely have you come back again, honey, because that's what's happening right now.
Yes.
3 weeks from now, we all know it might be something totally different.
Yes. Not a problem.
We'll keep moving on. I wish you the best in all that you do, my dear.
Thank you.
And again, it's been a pleasure. And with that, I will say thank you all for joining us for this edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. And until we see you the next time, I say peace.
Peace.